Table topics, one of the most dreaded sessions in a Toastmasters meeting. But if you're the table topics master, you're kind of spared of really having to go on stage and speak on a topic you have no idea about. And that's what we're going to talk about here, how to effectively play the role of a table topics master. Hey, my name is Radeep and I love to learn about effective communications and sharing those learnings with you so that you can level up your communications game as well. Now, if you don't already know what a table topics master does, essentially there's a session in a Toastmasters meeting known as table topics, which is a session to help improve your impromptu speaking, your on-the-spot speaking. How it works is that there's a person on stage who's a moderator, who is the table topics master, and he or she will call upon one or two members of the audience at random, give them a topic on the spot, and they're required to speak on it for about a minute or two. So we're going to break down the role into three parts. First is what you need to do to practice before the meeting, what you need to do during the meeting, and lastly we're going to talk about some creative spins you can add to your role to make the entire table topic session a lot more fun. So let's start with before the meeting. Now, as a table topics master, you have to remember three things. First is you need to speak to the Toastmaster of the day to understand the theme that he or she is setting for the meeting. The reason for this is that most of your topics need to surround that theme so that the entire meeting just seems a lot more cohesive and congruent. And when it comes to choosing topics or writing or preparing for topics for the table topic session, you need to make sure that you take the audience size into consideration. So you can contact your president of the club or you can contact your VP education and understand how many members on average show up for every meeting. And a good rule of thumb is to have topics prepared for about half of that audience. So for example, if your club has about 30 members, you should have at least 15 topics ready for your table topic session. In most cases, you might not even need 15 topics, but just having a number slightly more than what you feel might be required is just useful to keep. When it comes to selecting topics, you need to keep just two things in mind. One is, of course, make sure it's related to the theme, which we already spoke about. But second is we need to make sure that the topics that we are choosing are quite simple in nature. Most of the people who are attending Toastmasters meetings are already very nervous about public speaking. And when we're asking them to speak on the spot, it's just so much more nerve-wracking. And I've been to sessions and meetings where people have just given topics that the volunteer barely understands. And it's really hard to speak on topics which are very esoteric in nature or which are very jargony or technical. So make sure that your topics are quite universal. A good way to determine the difficulty of your topic is to ask yourself whether you can really speak on it for about a minute. And this is assuming that you're not a very experienced table topic speaker, of course. And if you can, then okay, go ahead and put it in. But you can also run by your entire topics list through your Toastmasters mentor or any friend you might be having within the club, just to see if they find the topics easy and speakable as well. To show you some examples of what type of topics you can pick, we have a PDF document which you can download for completely for free. There's a link in the description below which will take you to an article where you will find a downloadable PDF with a bunch of topics, so you can either take them and use them for your meeting, or you can use them as inspiration to create your own topics. And the third thing to do is to make sure you speak to your vice president of education to understand the agenda of the meeting, because this will help you get a sense of who the speakers already are and who the role players are, so you know who to not pick on when it comes to the table topic session. Because the idea is to give everyone a chance to grab a little stage time. So instead of picking people who have already come on the stage, it's always good to pick people who have not come on the stage, or to pick guests to give them a feel of the stage and to give them a taste of what it's really like to be a Toastmasters member. So save your sessions for those people instead of people who've already come onto the stage. So those are the three things we need to do before the meeting even begins. Now, during the meeting, there are two things that come into account. One is what you need to say, and the second thing is how you say it, aka your delivery. Now, when it comes to what to say, a Toastmasters meeting is usually divided into three parts. You have your prepared speeches, your table topic session, and your evaluation round. And in most cases, that's how the meeting will flow. The table topic session is usually the second session in a Toastmasters meeting. And the Toastmaster of the day will be the one to invite you onto the stage. Now, what you need to keep in mind when you are called on stage is to first start off by explaining what your role is and why is the table topic session really important to become an effective communicator. And this is primarily for the guests, to explain to them the importance of a table topic session and what's your role in the entire meeting. Now, I don't want to get into every word that should go into a Table Topics Master script, but I've added a link in the description below where you can download the entire script. You can copy paste it word for word, just change the names. There are even spaces for you to add your own creativity to it, but this will give you a good base of what you need to say as a Table Topics Master. And one more thing I want to add within your introduction as the TTM is to make sure you mention that this session is also for the guests, because they might be confused, like, can they participate, can they not? So always going to just point it out there and just tell them that, okay, even the guests are allowed to participate in only this session of a Toastmasters meeting. Okay, now let's talk about delivery. As a Table Topics Master, the idea or the vibe that you're trying to give out is friendly and encouraging. Table Topics is so hard for most people, including myself, that having somebody who's going to be cocky or arrogant on stage or is going to be non-empathetic to a nervous speaker is just not inviting enough for somebody like me who's nervous to actually volunteer to come up on stage and speak on a topic that I do not know about. So make sure that you're being empathetic enough that even if you are an experienced speaker, you're giving the benefit of the doubt to people who are new on stage. Because some people, when they come on stage, they know that they're not good at speaking impromptu. And many times when they pick up a topic, they might not have anything to say about it. They're just standing on the stage without even speaking a word. And at that time, it's our job, while the audience is waiting, to kind of encourage them while they are on stage, throw out some ideas to them. Just make sure that they are comfortable enough to speak something so that the next time they come up for a table topic session, they are much better off. And that's essentially about it when it comes to delivery. As long as you're giving out a friendly and encouraging vibe, that's good enough. We're not trying to, as a Table Topics Master, we're not trying to be a flamboyant speaker or anything like that. As long as you stick to the script, you practice it a couple of times, and you're empathetic to the people you're calling onto the stage, you're good to go. One thing I will say though is that when you start calling people on to deliver a table topic, start off by calling on an experienced member so that somebody who you know is going to deliver a good impromptu speech. We mainly do this so that the audience gets an understanding of what an ideal table topic looks like, and then they can follow suit. Another good practice is to kind of switch up between a guest and an audience and a member. So you first call on a member, then you follow it up with a guest, member, guest, member, guest, and so on and so forth. Okay, and the last thing that we want to talk about is some creative spins that you can add to make your table topic session a lot more interesting and a lot more unique. Now, the standard table topic session goes like that: the speaker has prepared a few speeches, he or she has written it down in their notebook, and they call on a speaker on stage. They give them a topic at random, and they just continue that process. But there are a few things that you can do to make this topic choosing process a little more interesting. Now, I'm going to list out a few over here, and if you have any other interesting ideas like these, please comment them down below. I would love to know different suggestions on how to make a table topic session a little more interesting. Now, the idea is to make things a little interesting over here and to build some anticipation even for the audience, not just for the volunteer. And one way we can do that is instead of having a notebook full of topics and just giving them out at random, we can kind of make it interesting wherein we give the volunteers something more or something different than just a regular topic. And I've seen three things happen which I found very interesting over here. One is a deck of cards, second is a set of props, and third is pictures, like actual printed out pictures. Essentially what all three of these do is that the TTM either has a deck of cards with him or her, either she has a bag of props, or either she has a stack of pictures or printed out images. And the audience member comes, picks out any one of them, and has to speak on that particular prop or that image for about a minute or two. It just gives it a slightly more different spin than being like a regular topic. Another really interesting thing that you can do is you can have a sell me this scenario, wherein you, this works well with a set of props, that you have a set of props and the entire table topics is based on you selling that particular prop. So the audience member comes on the stage, let's say they come up and they pick up this calculator from a bag of props, and they have a minute to sell the audience on this calculator. So that makes it like a fun exercise because it calls on for a lot of humor and a lot of nonsense talk, which is always funny for the audience. No one's really expecting anybody to really sell anyone anything, and no one's expecting anyone to be really good at it. It's just like a fun way, or it's a different spin on the usual table topics, and just adds that a bit more of an entertainment factor to the normal table topics session. And the third interesting thing that I've seen happen is that instead of calling on one member on the stage, you can call on 2 or even 3 members at one time and give them a sort of a scenario or a skit that they can practice. So for example, if you were to call on 2 members, the topic that it's not exactly a topic, it's more of a skit that you can give them is maybe something along the lines of 2 best friends packing for a road trip. And then those two, like the 2 people called on stage, have to pretend that they're best friends and kind of go through that entire scenario. Again, the idea is that it makes it a little more different than a regular session, and it just makes the entire session a lot more different and entertaining. Like, the members will remember the session even months or years after it's done because of the fact that it's so different. And that's about it. As a table topic master, what you need to do before the speech, during the speech, and some ideas of creative spins that you can add to make your session a little more interesting. If you have any other questions with regard to public speaking, communications, or Toastmasters, we have written a bunch of in-depth resources and articles on all these topics, so go check out franticallyspeaking.com.